Hi everyone, it's Matt Chikini here. So I just started a new series here. I'm calling it the Augmented Pathologist, and how we can use AI tools to kind of optimize our practice and really improve some of the work we're doing. And I'm just going to showcase some of the stuff that I'm doing here in my practice, and hopefully that you find some of this useful as well. We're actually presenting a course on this at USCAP in San Antonio coming up. This will be on Monday, March 23rd. It's myself and Dr. Raj Singh. We're presenting on how you can use some of this in pathology education. And I'm going to showcase you some of the stuff that we're gonna discuss in this session. So if you like this, please sign up, and we would love to kind of continue the conversation in person at USCAP. And so today, I kind of want to just go over the different AI tools and how they work a little bit, and about kind of some of their limitations. And so, many times people have tried some of these AI tools, especially earlier versions of them, and really haven't gotten great outputs from some of this content. And it's a little bit that they've improved a lot over the last little bit, and it's a little bit of how they use them. So the first thing I want to show to you is the importance of actually using search functions into these. And so what I'm using here is I'm using Google AI Studio. You can access this as well if you like. And so I'm using their best model here. This is Gemini 3 Pro, which has really achieves state-of-the-art benchmarks across multiple areas. And I want to show you the limitations of these models, even the kind of state-of-the-art model here. And so I first, when I was running this here, I had the search function off. And so this is why I'm using it in AI Studio, so I can control these things. And so it's not able to actually access the internet itself. And so I asked it, what date does it think it is? And it actually tells me that it's January 2025. And this actually reflects its end of its training date. And so this is the last time that it had updates to any of the information that was put into its pre-training. And this is actually a really important point. And so when you're using one of these models and you're asking it questions, it's only can give you information that it has available in its pre-training. And so if something that happened more recently, or you're wanting it to identify novel things, it's not going to have that unless it was in the pre-training data set. And just to showcase this, if I asked it what's the latest news it knows about, it tells me about things from late 2024 and early 2025. However, if I then put this Google search on here, and then I reran this here, and then I ask it what date it is, it can then go and search the internet. And then it goes and then clarifies actually what the current date is. It tells me that correctly it's January. It's Friday, January 2nd, 2026, which is the date that I recorded this. And then if I then ask it, then what is the latest news in here? It then tells me some more recent news stories, and then links them to this. And so this can be really important for pathology as well. And I'll showcase to you how this can actually work to actually improve this. And so just kind of wanted, so I'm here just using AI Studio again, and I went back, and so this is an older generation model of Gemini, their AI model. And so we're going to explore this question of kind of working up a spindle cell lesion in the pleura. And it gives an answer here. It's not a great answer. I think a lot of these things are, this is kind of this AI kind of slop stuff that I think a lot of people would have seen and just been like not really that impressed by. It's like kind of right, but not really right, and it can actually lead you down the wrong pathway. And so what we're going to do is we're going to progressively showcase different things. And so now I'm here on ChatGPT. So on ChatGPT here, there's this model selector here. And you have a few different options here. Depending on what account you have, you may have different access here, or you may not be able to select from them. And so the first thing here is I'm showing here this older model. So this is GPT 4.0. So that's the previous model that was kind of deprecated in the summer of 2025. And I asked this question around spindle cell differentials, and it produces, a decent answer. I wouldn't say that it's great, but I think it comes up. It kind of goes down on some weird tangents. Focusing on building a peripheral nerve sheath tumor, things like that. And so that's the GPT 4.0 model here. And then this is also not searching the internet. It didn't do any searches, and it didn't do any reasoning here. It just kind of gave me the answer out straight. And so now I've moved here to GPT 5.2. So this is the most current model. And what I wanted to show you here, the difference when you have thinking versus non-thinking. So when you don't have thinking on, it means it's not using any of its tokens for reasoning. And so I have it here just giving an instant answer. The one thing is when you're using the free GPT, it often won't be in auto mode here. So we'll often decide what it's going to use, whether it'll just answer right away or else we'll do thinking. And so in this case here, it just answered immediately. It did do some searches and pulled in some images here. It's not really clear how these all link to it. You know, looks like it's pulling up some peripheral nerve sheath tumors here and some of these here as well. And you know, the answer is okay, but it kind of goes a little bit off tangent too. Um, and so that's kind of the instant mode here. So then I'll just jump here ahead. So when I turn the thinking mode on here, what happens here is it actually will start using some of these tokens for reasoning. And so it actually thought about this problem for 1 minute and 26 seconds. And then you can see here its thought structure of actually how it thought about this question, of really this question around spindle cell lesions in the pleura. And then it's starting to formulate this more kind of algorithmic approach for me, which I think can be a little bit more useful and kind of best kind of fits my query here. So it's actually putting up here of the best way to kind of do this. And so I just wanted to contrast that here with some of the other models. So here I'm using Claude. I like Claude a lot. It's often quite good at these kind of tasks. I like its output. I like its style. I like its voice of writing as well. And so it has different models as well. They're a little bit confusing to understand. So they're kind of named based on the length of different literary works, where a haiku is very short, a sonnet is in the middle, and an opus is kind of longer. And so if you want kind of just a really quick answer on something really fast, you'll use haiku. If you want something that's kind of like middle of the road, use sonnets. And then the opus is here kind of for these more kind of complex, longer tasks. When you put through opus, this is kind of what it does. It also is using reasoning here. You can see its thought process. And then it's kind of given us this multi-step way of working through this with this IHC panels, refinement. And then it's even given us this decision tree as well. So that's that. The other thing that's changed a little bit is GPT. Also, you can go a little bit further and go to a pro level of reasoning. And so the change here is it thinks for actually much longer. So you can see it actually thought about this problem for actually 11 minutes. And this doesn't always produce better results. The best thing to do is give as much context as possible. And so, you know, I might have wanted to give it a little bit more here in the prompt of exactly what I was looking for. But what it does is it thinks deeply about this question. You can see it's actually researched a number of papers here, put these in, and does this in multiple iterative ways. And then you kind of get this result here to put this out where it kind of gives us this real step-by-step way of thinking about this problem. So that's good. But what if I wanted more of a literature review on this topic? So what if I was trying to make a kind of a teaching resource for some of my residents, and I wanted to put this together in into something there. And so what I would then do here is, so what I'm going to do here is do a deep research query. And there's a few different ways to access it. And so the way that you access it here in ChatGPT is you actually have to click on deep research here. And then what I then did is I ran this through here. So I gave it this prompt of asking about making this kind of review document for my residents. And so it then will then ask you a few clarifying points. And then I answered the questions here. And then you can see it went off and it thought for 12 minutes. It actually did 113 searches, and then it read 18 resources. And then I get this nice long formatted document here that includes some integrated figures as well on this kind of topic, which is great. But the ChatGPT is not the only one that will do this. And so Claude also will do this. And so through Anthropic. And so I did the same thing here. It then asked me some follow-up questions. And this one impressively read 501 sources and then gave me this kind of comprehensive document here, kind of putting it all together. And I do like the writing a little bit better from the Anthropic model. And then I did the same thing here with Gemini. So Gemini will also do a deep research query here. And it also put together quite a nice comprehensive document. But, you know, they all had their strengths and weaknesses. But the cool thing is that with AI, you can just put them all together. And so I just took the output from these three different models. I asked it to combine all these and make it into a really useful and high yield document for our residents. And so here, This is now this kind of high yield review for our residents here, where we're talking about spindle cell lesions of the pleura. It talks about why it matters, contrasting the kind of difference in survival between some of the differentials here, giving us this kind of 60-second triage here initially of the kind of clinical history, um, giving us this kind of algorithm here with different staining patterns, how to interpret the staining patterns, some things around malignancy and mesothelioma, going around some specifics around different entities here, highlighting that GATA3 can also often be positive in these sarcomatoid mesotheliomas. Some of the pitfalls around desmoplastic mesothelioma. It highlights nicely the work by Andy Churg around this fake fat phenomenon as well, which is, I think, a really important point for trainees. It talks us about the solitary fibrous tumors and the D'Amico risk stratification model, which I think is a really important thing and is a useful thing for trainees here as well. I'm talking about sarcomatoid carcinomas and synovial sarcomas, which are a bit of a trap here, especially in a keratin positive lesion. Talks about other more rare differentials as well in an appropriate clinical context. And then gives us some summary tables here around IHC and molecular diagnostics. And then some kind of pearls and pitfalls for this all. And so you can, oh, sorry, I forgot about this. You even include some kind of landmark papers here at the end around some of these key aspects here as well. And this is pretty good. And, like you could easily kind of fact check this and kind of put it out there, but this is kind of how you can go all the way from basically a simple model to have something that is kind of this high yield type of review content that you can utilize for different aspects. And so hopefully this was helpful. And so this is kind of the first thing here is about how we can use AI and AI search to kind of optimize a lot of processes. And so, if you want to get started, the thing to do is to just start with an AI search here. And then if you are on auto mode, that's okay. You can do this in the free, but just make sure that when you are doing this here, that you have web search enabled, because that will make sure that it actually searches the internet and can help get you some content there around it. And so hopefully this is helpful, and we'll continue on more. And so if you want me to cover more things in this, or you have questions about AI and how it relates to pathology, feel free to drop them in the comments. And thanks so much. I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks.